Welcome back to TCM. I'm Eddie Muller, who is very happy to be here with Dana Delany, our guest programmer this evening. Dana, welcome back.
Thank you, Eddie.
So you have picked a very special film for our second feature tonight. Tell us about it.
Man on a Tightrope, directed by Elia Kazan, and of course, starring my favorite, Gloria Graham. See the reason why I picked it.
Yes.
I love this movie. This was another discovery for me. I had never seen this movie before.
I think this movie is a discovery for a lot of people because it's sort of the missing film on Kazan's filmography.
Yeah.
It's like nobody talks about this movie for reasons that we may suss out and we may be able to talk about a little bit.
Well, it's interesting because I think he kind of dismissed it because he made it before On the Waterfront.
Right.
And it was right after his whole HUAC testimony. So he was in a precarious position, and it was written by Robert Sherwood, right?
Robert Sherwood wrote the screenplay. A fellow named Neil Patterson wrote the book.
Okay. Based on a true story about the circus Brumbach that escaped communist
East Germany.
East Germany.
Yes, yes.
So he's like, there's no movie here. And then he said, I realized, he says this in his autobiography, I realized I had to do this to prove to myself that I could be objective about communism, and I was not a communist party, acolyte. That's what he says in his, that's his reasoning in his autobiography.
Which is really interesting because so many people see On the Waterfront and take that film to be like his apology for informing, because, that's the theme of the movie, right? Is sometimes the right thing to do is to rat people out. And so a lot of people held that against Kazan. If they saw that in On the Waterfront, wait till they see Man on a Tightrope. Because this is basically, they shot it in Europe.
Yes, in Germany.
And it
was the first movie shot with a full German crew since
the war. Which is fascinating. And many of the members of the Circus Brumbach actually appear in the film as themselves, doing their act.
That just makes the movie to me, that he actually is a real circus people.
Yes.
It's an interesting thing talking about the communist political aspect, because Frederick March, who's fantastic in it, also
incredible in this movie,
was investigated by the HUAC. He was on the list.
Yes.
And then you have Adolf Monjou, who was completely supportive of the investigation, very right-wing guy. And I think the theme of the movie in the end, and I think Kazan discovered it as he went along, was that we're all just circus people putting on a show, and that's really what matters in the end, is putting on the show.
Right.
And in the movie, the Richard Boone character, who's pro-communism, is like, it's the workers, it's the people who put up the tents that are the ones that are important. And Kazan's basically saying, no, it's us, the ones who make people happy and put on the show.
Yeah.
We're the ones that are important.
Exactly. And Gloria is great in this movie.
Well, also, I love the fact that she did this and The Glass Wall after winning the Oscar for Bad and the Beautiful.
Right.
And I love the fact that that's where she went towards these character roles, because that's really who she was at the core. She was a character actress. And she knew that, and she liked getting into it and getting kind of down and dirty. And if you hear her voice is lower in this movie, it's raspier. Partly it's because she was, she always liked to try new things, always trying to improve. She was going on the roof of her hotel in Munich and screaming at the top of her lungs, George, because she had heard that if you did that, it would wear out your vocal cords and lower your voice.
She learned that from Howard Hawks. That's how Howard Hawks got his actresses to have the deep voice.
Yes, like Lauren Bacall.
And, as an actress, you must really appreciate what Kazan does with actors, because he may be the best director of actors in Hollywood history.
And I think a bit of a sadist when it comes to actors, but yes, he knew actors, he knew human behavior. And he says this in his autobiography, that it was really Gerd Oswald, is that right?
Yes, Gerd Oswald.
Who was the producer, because he needed, somebody to hire the German crew and German producer. And he said, honestly, he directed most of the movie because I realize I'm not good with action sequences, but I am good with human behavior. And it shows, that's what makes this movie so great. It's the human stuff between the people. It's not the escape, it's how he shows the people and their faces. And the faces, the DP, what's his name, George?
George Krause.
Oh my God, this black and white photography and these shots of these raw circus faces that either could be Walker Evans faces or Soviet propaganda faces.
It is terrific, really. So I'm so glad you picked this. Now I have to share something with you.
Yes.
This is why I'm especially thrilled that you picked this movie. I have a weird thing in my movie fandom. When I really love a performer, I hold out one film that I do not watch because I want it to be there when I'm an old man.
Oh, I get that completely. I completely
And so
understand
it's like
that.
there's still a Gloria Graham movie that I haven't seen. This was the one. So I have actually not seen this movie.
Thank you for watching.
Right? Well, I haven't. So we're going to watch it together,
Oh,
right?
okay.
I think that was a pretty good sell job on this movie, you know? So now you get to decide for yourself because we are about to watch Frederick March, Gloria Graham, Terry Moore, Cameron Mitchell, and more in Elia Kazan's Man on a Tightrope. I hope you enjoyed Man on a Tightrope. I'm here with guest programmer Dana Delany. That was really something.
Are you okay having seen it?
I loved it. I really, really loved this movie. And obviously we're going to talk about Gloria because she is your favorite. I wished her part was bigger, but I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah.
She is fantastic in this movie.
Well, Gloria in this movie, as we've discussed, you see her on her back.
Yes.
As in many of
yes.
her movies.
Her introduction.
Is usually on her back with her legs in the air, which I think at some point must have been in her contract.
Or else she suggested it.
I think
Who
she
knows?
suggested it to every director because
Yeah.
yes, it's a good entrance. She knew a good entrance. You know?
Exactly.
But when she finally has it out with Frederick March, and there's that scene where he slaps her.
That is just stunning. That is
The look on his face and her face, like he has this look that I tracked it. It's like shock that I did that. He says to her, "Do you know why I did that?" She goes, "You should have done it a lot sooner,"
Yeah.
which is typical 1950s dialogue. But maybe we shouldn't be saying that now. But the look of horror on his face, and then delight, and then sex, and then happiness, kind of like, what have I created here?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. He doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I heard about Gloria from a lot of people, that she was a lot to handle, you
Right.
know. But I found that scene to be so extraordinary, partly because you're not going to see that in a movie today.
You are not. And then the one that follows, when she says, "When do we go?" She says, "What's the matter, Carl? You seem happy.
Yes,
when do we
yes.
go, Carl?" And it's like such a sexual thing. Like, when do we go? Like, that's the sexiest thing he's ever done. Escaped. And then she realizes she's taking her sweater off with her crazy midi blouse on, sailor shirt. Takes her sweater off and realizes that she lied about the daughter.
Right.
And she wraps the sweater around her head and covers her face and goes, "Ooh," and then tells the truth. No other director would have let her get away with that.
Yeah,
because
and it had to be her idea.
her idea. He said, "Go with it. That's great." And he understood how to work with an actor and make it so idiosyncratic. And I've said this, I think that her wrapping that around her face is equal to Brando and On the Waterfront with the glove, which is also idiosyncratic, and he probably discovered it in rehearsal and
Right.
put her glove on his hand. And it's just that little human behavior that's so great.
And I don't know, this film struck me as like one of the best examples of artists under a regime.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter. We can call them communists or Nazis or fascists or totalitarians or whatever. But people trying to be creative when they are told by an authority, you will do this.
Right.
Right? And I love the scene where he goes into the Communist Party office and he says, no, we tried it the way you wrote it and no one laughed.
It wasn't funny.
It's not funny, right? And it's like, yeah, there you go. And it was so fascinating that Adolphe Menjou is like lying on the couch listening to all this.
Smoking with the ashes going on his jacket.
Which, I think Kazan dictated that.
It was good.
Because Adolphe Menjou, was known as the most dapper man in Hollywood. To have cigarette ash on his suit would never happen.
Yeah.
So I almost think that Kazan was like, put more ashes on Adolf.
Yeah,
you know?
that's funny. And evidently they got along great, politics aside, you know. In the end, he's an actor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing, talking about regime, is this was, as I said, a whole German crew, and they lost their first DP because the East German police, because they were shooting in Munich, the Stasi threatened them, anybody who worked on the movie, and they said, if you have family in East Germany, we will take their property away from them and we will punish them for working on this movie. And so the first DP said, I got family in East Berlin, I'm not working on the movie.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love this movie, Dana. I'm so glad that you suggested this one. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Dana, you are not going away because coming up next, it is Noir Alley. That's right. Ben Mankiewicz isn't doing the toss tonight. It's me tossing to myself. So stay tuned because Noir Alley is coming up next with my guest host, Dana Delany. And guess who the star of our film will be? Stay tuned.